The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au. Welcome to the KRGS Doors podcast. I'm your host, Drew Blackman. The aim of our podcast is to talk to cool people with cool stories, whether it be our suppliers, customers, staff, other business owners, or people from different walks of life, and get to know them a bit better. If you're interested in coming on, drop us a line or email, or connect with us via Facebook, and we can have a chat to see what we can do. Today on episode 24 of the KRGS Doors podcast, I'm joined by KRGS Doors Managing Director Clayton Blackman and Brett Worden, Managing Director of Austaron Surfaces. Austaron provide quality surfaces and finishes to the Australian market. Their products can be found in retail, healthcare, food services and residential. With Brett, we talk how he got into the industry, the changes he has seen, and the biggest challenges he faces as a manager. I will also let you in on our next episode's guest. But for now, please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Brett Worden.
If this doesn't turn you on, folks, you haven't got a switch.
Thank you for joining us today, Brett. What is the Brett Worden story?
Well, Managing Director of Austaron Surfaces in Australia. We were established in 2003 with the distribution of Austaron solid surface. Austaron was a solid surface material developed from Samsung. And basically we entered the marketplace to, I suppose become a reseller to the marketplace of a very, very good product. Over the years, Austaron has continued to look at different products in the marketplace. We needed very, very good fits, very high end, but we also had I suppose we needed products that were the best of the best. I didn't want high volume, products. We wanted low volume, but very, very good products, something that we'd be proud of, every single product that we have. So in the last 17 years, we've also picked up the exclusive distribution of cane mail architectural mesh. It's polycarbonate mesh out of Wellington. It's got a very unique story in its own right, that Kane Horsham was the arts director on Lord of the Rings and responsible for developing all the armory and chainmail mesh, etc. And during that, years of filming and countless hours of producing armor, he said there's got to be a better way instead of, dozens and dozens of people all night long knitting,
Putting it together.
So he basically developed a machine that they said was impossible to do, and he developed a machine that could actually now make a large-scale mesh. And to date, we've done some amazing facades. Pacific Fair Shopping Centre, Angus Street Car Park has the world's largest single piece of mesh, 980 square metres.
Wow.
So we can do kinetic displays, we can do everything. So that product we're very, very proud of. We also distribute acrylic couture. Acrylic couture won Best Decorative Product in the World in the European trade shows back in 2013 when it launched. And it's a clear acrylic material that has coppers or stainless steel interwoven into the acrylic compound. And the manufacturer is a bit of a scientist, and he actually has a way of separating nanoparticles. And he worked out a patented way to now introduce nanoparticles into the acrylic, which gives wonderful light reflection and plays on light, along with those very exclusive metal fabrics that go into it. And because he doesn't dope his polymer, he can give a 100-year degraduation warranty. We can use the product outside, inside, in weather. It's unaffected. And then just recently, we've partnered with a Californian architect, designer called Mario Romano. Mario has developed through very clever algorithms a very, very quick way to route our solid surface material. So typically, if a designer was to do a pattern in solid surface or any other material, they would have to design the pattern. Someone would then have to write the code and everything for the CNC, and then the CNC would have to, route the material.
So, Brett, this architect in California talking about, is he looking to use your product over there?
He basically uses different mediums.
Yeah.
He already uses a competitor product in America.
Yeah.
And he actually is branching out now. And in fact, he's just done a Nike wall that's been made in Austaron solid surface as well. He's doing an innovative wall for the Formula One Mercedes team at the moment. All of the Mercedes designers got together to develop a pattern that they're going to use in their, I don't know if it's in their offices or I'm assuming it's in their offices, but it's a massive, big, 10-meter long wall display. So it's a very, very interesting product that would have taken a normal tradesman weeks to actually do
put together. Yeah,
we can literally route a product in about an hour a sheet, and that's of course very cost effective. But he also developed an innovative way to join the sheet where the joints go through the routed pattern, right, and they're very much disguised. So installation is very quick as well. So each of our products are, I would say, top of class. In fact, I don't think there is a product in higher quality than any one of our products.
Yeah, and you do these products all over Australia?
We do all these products all over Australia and New Zealand.
Fantastic.
Mate, so how did you start in the surfaces industry?
Oh, that's a long time ago now.
You don't look that old, mate, to say that.
You must have a filter on. I started off as a trades assistant in an upholstery and French polishing company. I quickly learned that after a year there of sanding timber to what I thought was fantastic was not good enough for a French polisher. It's a skill I suppose you need to have. I didn't have the patience. So I ended up getting a job with GL Briggs. And GL Briggs Plywood is a famous Australian company. They've been around for hundreds of years. And they had a commercial division in Brisbane that sold form ply to the construction industry in Oregon timber. So I basically became the storeman for them. I really enjoyed that job. It was a small team of three of us, the managing director, the secretary, and myself. We did nothing some days for some weeks at all, and then all of a sudden the big high rises started, and you were, semi-load after semi-load of construction plywood, form ply, and Oregon timber had to get the door, and had to get the door exactly when they needed it. So it was a really, really good job. They got acquired by Ralph Simon's Plywoods about a year into that, and moved across to that company, and they had then construction formwork and everything as well, but they also had a lot more decorative plywood and etc. And they had a larger customer base. So during that time, I ended up, finding out where all the suburbs in Queensland were, and we had to ship daily and pick stuff, and it was a quite a good role. But then they basically closed down as well, and I found myself unemployed. Funny thing, as a young, and I was probably only about 22 at this stage, and had just recently been married. I got married at 21. The thing that was quite interesting is that I was actually quite happy to have a little bit of a break, and I went down to the unemployment office, the CES office at that stage, and there was a position advertised for a warehouse supervisor, had to be 35 years of age and 10 to 15 years of experience, but servicing the exact customer base that I had been doing with both these companies. So, as you know, Clayton, I've got a little bit of front to me when want to.
Yes, absolutely.
I took the card off the wall and walked up to the lady, got in line, and when she saw me, she said, "You can't apply for this. You're not of age. They want someone 35 years of age. They want someone with, experience in doing this job." I basically challenged her and said, how about you not say no to me? How about you let the boss of this company
say no?
You at least you say, let him say no to me, and give me the opportunity to present my story to him.
Yeah.
She didn't want to do that, but I sort of persisted a little bit more. And in the end, she rang, and she was a bit smug on the phone to Terry Townsend, who was the state manager at the time up here, and said, I've got a young boy who's 21 in front. He wants to come for the job, and, this is what his story is. And to much to my delight and surprisement, to be quite honest, he said, yep, send him in for an interview. And I got the job.
And that's history now.
Yeah. I had, I think there was 15 people in the warehouse, and I was a 21-year-old guy, and I think 3 of those people in the warehouse had been there for quite some time and had all been applying for the position as well.
And this young guy come in and topped them all.
It was a very interesting first week, but, like anything, we changed things around a bit, and it was very, very quickly that, I excelled. I had the reps coming in now on a Friday, instead of complaining that, all the customers weren't getting their goods when they want. I sort of looked at what were the important items that customers want, not the semi-loads of stock or whiteboard and things like that. And the whole warehouse was running on bulk, not on priorities. Yes. So I turned it around, and the first of the month I sent out all the little stuff first, and the big stuff I would ring people and say, hey, this is stock, isn't it? And they say, yeah. And I say, well, I'm not going to send it until, Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever. And so reps started coming in and, acknowledging that, things are good. So, I felt I did a really good job at that, and I was told constantly. And then I started moving up, and that, again, was by chance.
Yeah.
Walked into, I had been in the previous companies used to servicing the phone calls and all the phone sales and that as well. And by chance, I walked into the office one day, and I used to always hate when phones ring and no one would pick it up.
Yeah, it pisses me off as well.
Excuse yourself, say, can I put you on hold, answer the phone and put that person on hold, at least acknowledge that there's someone there.
Correct.
We were taught that by the 2 previous bosses. And I walked in one day, and the estate manager comes screaming out of his office because the phones were just ringing and ringing and ringing. And I sort of panicked, to be quite honest. And I just picked up the phone and I answered it. His face immediately was, I could see that I should not have done that, because I shouldn't have been answering the phone to, the important customer base. But because I'd been trained by the previous people, I answered it very professionally.
Yeah.
It turned out it was one of our most difficult customers, a large hardware chain. They had a massive first of the month order. They had a whole lot of material that would literally probably take a day to pick, and they wanted it straight away. And I quickly realised that, hey, that wasn't going to happen. So I quickly identified with him, was there anything that was important that needed to go out straight away? Was there anything that wasn't? I documented all that. I told him I'd have all of that out to him tomorrow, and the rest would be out at the end of the week. The call went on for about 5 to 10 minutes, actually. It was quite a long call. It was a big order. And when I hung the phone up, he signalled for me to come into his office, and I thought, oh, here I go.
Here we go. You're going to get dragged over the coals here.
Yeah, absolutely. I was absolutely shitting myself because his face was, I'll never forget his face, actually. What's that now, 25 years on, and I can still remember his face and running out the office. And when I went to his office, he said, where did you learn to do that? I said, do what? He said, answer the phone and do it. I said, well, I told you that's what I was doing. I wasn't just doing distribution at the other place. I was also taking all the phone sales. And I said, to be quite honest, I had construction formwork people yelling and screaming, and they're not the most diplomatic people. If you're a worker, you heard the F word and you were called the C word if you didn't get something out to them when they had a crane or whatever. So you just learnt to do things as we did it. And he, the very next day I walked in and he said, you're starting in the office. I said, hang on, I'm supervised. And he said, you're not doing that anymore. He said, it's more important for you to be here.
Wow.
And that ruffled some feathers in the office, of course, especially one of the senior people who was the purchasing guy. he didn't like it. And but anyway, we got on and, we changed. And again, I think I changed that culture. Instead of everyone avoiding the phone call, I think there was 5 of us who everyone would try to pretend they were busy, not to answer the call.
Yeah.
I quickly turned that around and actually started going for the calls, and to make the others answer the calls, I started actually saying every day, "Oh, look, I've just done 27 calls today, and I've taken 16 of this, and here's my dollar value of orders that have gone out for the day." So all of a sudden,
it was a bit of competition there, mate, eh?
A bit of competition started, and then it was actually difficult to answer the phone because people would answer the phone even if they were talking to someone else. They would say, "Excuse me, I'll put you on hold," and they'd answer a call even though they're on one just to get a bigger dollar sale.
They were all chomping at the bit then.
Yeah, and then again, by chance, the purchasing guy was on holidays one day, and I literally had to. We needed to get some stuff from interstate. We were a national business, and I had to get some stuff brought in from Melbourne, I think it was, and then all of a sudden the state manager again said, how I dealt with that and transported that. And next minute I'm learning to do the purchasing role in the business. This all happened within 12 months. And
wow.
Next minute I become the purchasing manager for the company and dealt with the overseas product, Wilsonart. Wilsonart Lemonade is the world's biggest lemonade company. And we basically, I become that. I implemented a whole lot of excess stock policies and moving of stock, and pretty good at actually balancing stock.
And you at this time you were the age of what, 22, 23?
Yeah, probably 22, 23 years of age. Literally, my stock was, I spent a lot of time. I just wouldn't order just 50 of that, whatever. I'd look at what was needed, but we had stock levels. So before that, the company was constantly running out of key product. And again, turned the product that I could get in quickly and slowed it down and started bringing the product that took longer and spending a little bit more time looking at the trends in colour. We had, I think, 200 colours in our range at the time. So they had to come from America on a 12-week lead time. So it was really important. And then we found that, every state in Australia started drawing off Queensland.
Yeah.
Because we had all of the stock and, the right amounts, and we were within our stock targets. And then that was acknowledged as well by the company. So
that's good.
I become so important in the office that I had admiration to become a representative.
Yeah.
And that was probably the longest process, I don't know how long it was, 2-3 years where they really didn't want me to become, it was probably 2 years, they didn't want me to become a representative. And I always got the excuse as they become available that you're too important here and you don't have the experience. And we can't afford to let you, do it. And again, one day I got a little bit affront to me, and when I got the same story again, I think about my 5th apply at a representative's role, the number one territory in Queensland come up for grabs on the south side of Brisbane. So it was an hour's drive each day to get to it for me, and it was also the largest customer base. And I said to the state manager, he said, "I can't afford to let you go out." I said, "Can you afford not to have me? Because if I don't get the job," I said, "I don't see I've got a future here. I need to go and, find a job." And that bluff worked.
He threw you in.
And he threw me in. I went out with the sales manager on the very first day. We saw the first customer. We had that call. We got out to the car park. He said, "You seem to have it right." He said, "I'll let you go now." And that was the last. And I ended up doubling the sales for that territory within 2 years.
Wow.
So, a big possession. So
yeah.
Then didn't take long to get to be the sales manager. Then from the sales manager, I controlled both the Gold Coast and the Queensland division while we had the state manager was terminated and they were looking for another one. And then, I settled in. We expanded. We had plumbing products. We serviced all the trade links with Acronite vanities, Australian bathrooms, Ideal Standard, toiletry, Antique tapware, Ideal Standard tapware. We had all of our cabinetry products. So an amazing, 150-year-old business that has streets named after it, Parbury and Parbury Henty streets in Sydney to this day. And I got a lot of experience, and I think there was 500 staff.
Wow.
You learnt a lot. And then funny story. I know I'm going on a lot. There's 52 years of age, 52 years of age. There's a lot of stories there, but the managing director was very, very aggressive. Not a lot of people liked him, but he was a very good managing director, and he didn't suffer fools. So every time he would come up to the state manager would give the various reps a scripted role to go out and see customers. Of course, they were all your best customers. They had been pre-warned to say wonderful things about us.
We were coming.
And the first time I took Gary out, I went through that role, and I found in a very short time he'd come back again. And I got taken out again. I had this massive scripted role, and I got out there, at 9 o'clock. I walked out of the first wonderful meeting where I was fantastic. The company was fantastic. Everything was fantastic. And I got in the car and I just said, do you want to go and see some real customers, some people that actually have some problems? And he looked at me and said, yeah. And I said, I'm going to apologise now. I said, I'm going to take you to some people. I said, they're going to swear. They're going to call you some names. They won't even know who you are, but that's just their style.
Yeah.
They can be very aggressive, but they are very large customers, and I've been working with them to make them, our customers.
Yeah, win them over.
The first one was true to form. He had a great time because he was very personal and he was customer-focused orientated. The next one, he got called a C word before we got in the front door. That one was a little bit more difficult, but we walked down. We spent the day seeing these, I think, most wonderful customers, but they were very difficult customers.
So what was the report back like when you went back to your state manager and said, "Hey, I've taken the managing director out to these customers"? How did that go down?
I got told. I actually told him at the time I was forced to take him to a bad customer. So he said who were my worst customers. So he told me to go there.
Yeah, okay.
So I turned it around that I was directed to go there. I hadn't told anyone that actually before, but that's what we did.
Covered yourself.
And covered myself. And look, it all worked out well. He actually come back really happy. The company got a thing. He'd seen that we were addressing those bad companies. And one of them I'd turned from 0 sales a year to 50,000 a year. And, so that was really, really good.
Yeah.
No one would want to go and see them, but even I question myself sometimes while I've seen some.
You get some of them, mate. You get some of them.
I had one company that every time they saw me pull up into the car park, one of the 5 directives would run out into their kitchen showroom, and if you're not seeing a laminate display board, there's 200 colours on it. There's 10 chips on the board. They would run out and they would tip my sample board over on the ground, and then when I walked in, they would tell me that a kid did it, and they did this for 2 years straight. And instead of complaining or doing what the other reps would all do from the other companies would be walk out and let them ring the merchandiser and do it, I would sit down. I would sort the 2,000 chips out. It wasn't too hard because they fell on the ground in a bit of a pattern. But 6 months later, I walked in one day and the board wasn't on the ground.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, no kids in the showroom this week." And they said, No, we've secured it a little bit better, and they never ever knocked the board down ever again. So, and it was about a month later or a couple of months later, one of the younger directors come to me and said, "You know that we knocked that down?" I said, "Yeah, I know that you knocked it down." Yeah. He said, "Why would you pick that up?" I said, "Because if I don't pick it up, how are you guys going to sell my product to your customers? And they were one of the largest cabinet makers in that region. I said, how are they going to pick me, and my sales are going to suffer? So I got nothing better to do than to service your company. And if this is what I have to do, I said, I'll pick that sample board up every single time I come here. And so little things.
And then they started giving you orders then.
Yeah, look, Clayton, you would know. You've got to service your customer. If you don't service your customer, I don't necessarily believe that the customer is always right.
Yeah,
I don't believe that philosophy. The customer can be wrong. It's just you've got to work out whether you're going to tell him he's wrong or not.
Yeah,
educate them.
Educate them, and it might be you slowly got to work around to it. But business is tough. And everything that you get in sale, you've got to prove yourself every single time. And if you slip up one time, you could undo 5 years, 10 years
absolutely
of work.
It's about selling. It's about selling yourself. Yeah. It's about selling yourself.
Yeah. Well, internal salespeople, I think, are the most underrated people in most companies.
Yeah.
They literally they talk to your customers more than anyone else does, and if they're not the right people or not acknowledged, they don't service them well. You can start.
The main thing is too, Brett. They're the first impressions too. You know what I mean? So if you got someone happy and enthusiastic on the phone, they might be having the worst day and a shit day and so forth, and there's dramas at home. But they're your first response.
And as you said, Brett, too, on the other side, the customer, they've got a crane or they've got concrete being delivered and your product's not there, or they're going to, the poor receptionist may answer the phone and she's going to cop both barrels because they don't care. I need this product here now.
And when someone talks on the phone a lot to a customer, they think they know the customer really well, but the customer doesn't know that it's a fragile guy or fragile woman that doesn't like conflict and things like that sometimes. So that they might think they've got a really good rapport, and when they banter or do whatever, and that's not as much today.
No.
But we go back 25 years ago, it was a pretty brutal lifestyle to be in the building industry. I'm sure people listening would understand that themselves. They've gone through that. We are not in the same business or speak to people or whatever like happened back in those days. So,
yeah, sure.
But speeding up that process, I went then from that Queensland sales manager, and then one day a very, very good opportunity come up. The managing director come up again for one of those talks, and as we sat in the car, he started talking about the national product managers and his issues with them, and that he said, I would make a good national business manager, and would I ever consider that in years to come? And I spoke about that, and I said, yeah, and he literally said, what about the panel art role, which was our decorative board role, and that? And I said, yeah, you know what? I said, I wouldn't come to Sydney to do that, but I'd come to Sydney to do the main product, Wilson Art. It was American product. It was prestigious. We did around $45 million a year in sales in that product. Everyone aspired, in the industry to have this leading product. And I suppose that gold tooth, the rat scenario again, I said that's what I would, want to do. But I'd certainly be interested in years to come to be a product manager. Well, the very next week, a notification come across that the two business managers in Sydney had been terminated.
Wow. Timing.
I've got the notification.
Timing.
Yeah, timing. And I've gone, oh, wow, that's interesting. Not more than 30 minutes later, I got called into the office, and the state manager said, you've seen what's happened? And I said, yeah. And he said, you've got to ring Sydney. And I rang Sydney, and they offered me the panel art role, and I turned it down. I said I wouldn't come to Sydney for that role. I think they'd actually already employed someone from the Laminex group to come and take over the Wilson Art role. And obviously my interest that I would come to Sydney as a product manager was enough that, unfortunately, I didn't realise this, but that was enough for him then to terminate the other two product managers. And now all weight was on my shoulders as a 27-year-old to move my family of, two young children and my wife, very well settled, just moved into a new house, to pack our life up and move to Sydney. And I thought, this is an opportunity that you just don't get.
Yeah.
These are positions that 40 and 50-year-old people and, got marketing degrees and everything like that. But the managing director said he didn't want that person. He wanted someone that actually knew the product and would do it. There was so I said to him when the national marketing manager rang me, I said, look, I'd come if it was the Wilson art role, but I'm not coming for panel art. And I thought that was enough for them to say, well, you're not got it, we'll get someone else.
Yeah.
24 hours later, the phone rings again, and it was him, and he's saying, you've got the Wilson art role.
Wow.
I was going, what? There was a little bit of this is part of me that I didn't actually tell them either, is that I was now going to Sydney to look after the national colour, a product that was fashionable on colour. You had to set the new, colours and work with the clients and things like that. I sort of failed to tell anyone in the last 10 years I was actually colourblind.
That doesn't help.
It doesn't help. But, I bluffed my way for 7 years, and I thought, I'm going down there not to actually be the person to actually choose the colour. I'm not going to make that on my feeling. My job is to actually go around to our customers and see what our customers want, not what I want. And I felt that every time a product manager come up in the past, it was all about what they liked and what they did.
Yeah.
And that was the wrong attitude. So this is why we were introducing things that they, we'd, to give you an idea, when you bring in a laminate colour, you've got to cut 300 sheets up just to make the sample chips.
Wow.
You could sell just 50 sheets into a year of some of those colours. But, at certain times...
You've already used 300 just as samples.
Yeah, and then you only sell 50 of them. That's not a very good business model.
No.
As such. But sometimes you've also got to appreciate you've got to bring in, I used to call them the butterflies, you've got to bring in those fancy, flashy things. We all have them in our business. You would have them in KRGS stores.
Yes.
You would have items that make you absolutely no money, pain in the ass for your production people to produce.
Yep.
But you got to have them because that's what some people want occasionally.
Yep. Yes.
And those what we would call trim or highlight colours, we had to bring in. But we started looking at that, and again, we grew probably 5 to 6% market share nationally up against Laminex and Formica, during those. From 1999 to 2003 that I was product manager. I think we did a fantastic job. We were told we did a great job. We went from, I think it was 750,000 square metres to over 1 million square metres in Wilson Art at that stage. Our panel art lines grew. So we did a really, really good job with some very, very good oppositions with CSR and Laminex Group. So
how long did you have to come to Sydney for, mate?
I actually moved in 99. We stayed there for 12 months, and they paid for my accommodation for the first 12 months down there, the family. To be quite honest, leading up to the Sydney Olympics, Sydney was hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
I was on a plane every month. I was overseas for 4 weeks a year, and my young family was sitting at home in a foreign land, no support, no family, friends, and I sensed that, that they were not enjoying it as a time. And we got to, it was about March of 2000, and the Olympics just around the corner, and I had to either buy a house, and everyone kept saying straight after the Olympics that the house prices would crash. Almost you would know that you'd go and see a real estate agent, and they would have the price for the land today. They would have the price for the land in 1 month's time, which was up 1%. And then another month, they would literally cocky enough to say this is what the land price is going to grow by just in each quarter.
Yeah.
And yet everyone was telling me that the market was going to crash. So I said, I can't commit, and it was too expensive for me. You know, geez, I was 31 at that stage. Oh, no, sorry, I was 28 at that stage. And I said, I can't buy a house in Sydney with 2 young kids, you know, single wage, things like that. I said, I just need to go back to Queensland where there's a bit of support.
Yeah.
And I come home to my wife, Belinda, and said, we're going to go back to Brisbane. She said, what about the job? I said, we're just going to go back. So that was very well received. Great night that night. Look, I went in the next day and I went to the general manager, and there was another factor actually, and that was more important than the house prices. Is that the month prior, Parbury's had been aggressively bought on the share market on a takeover by a group called Alesco.
Yeah.
In the first month, there was literally all these massive changes. There was all these, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. So there was that little bit of a fear factor there as well as to, I'm jumping actually, that timing's wrong actually, that was a little bit later. But there was things at play that made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, you know, long term there. So the general manager went around, he rang the managing director who was in a different corporate office and told them that I was leaving and or I could do the job from Brisbane. What did it matter? I was on a plane. I was sort of travelling, you know, every 3 weeks to a different state. I was the one doing all the state visits. The other product managers would spend most of their time in the office, and I felt I had to get out into the field to see the
coalface.
Yeah, we had 100 representatives, and they were all itching to hear what was happening at head office. You know, we don't have that communication that's everyone knows. You know, you had a new product. You found out when you got your document saying we're releasing a product. These days, social media, there's teasers months before things happening, etc. So, you know, people really like to see the product managers.
Yes.
You're a little bit like a god or something when you come to a state, to be quite honest.
What's new for us?
Because you would have something exciting and new and things like that. So,
the Pied Piper.
But look, the general manager, much to my surprise, actually agreed that I could actually move back to Brisbane and work from home. They took $10,000 off my salary, as they said would be the airfare costs and hotel costs for me, you know, for the next 12 months, you know, in extra travel and things like that, and that they would test to see what happened. Now, didn't need to test. I worked those next 3 years. I worked harder than I've ever worked in my life. I'd get up in the morning. I'd walk to my office. I would do work. I would travel. I would do everything. And I remember being in Sydney about 2 years in, and the finance manager walked in, and he'd been arguing that he should be able to work from home.
Yeah.
So this is the CFO of the company.
Wow.
Really, really high person. And the general manager turned to him when I was sitting at the desk and said, "You're not working from home." And the CFO said, "Why does Brett get to do it?" And he said, "Because I know Brett works. I can't trust anyone else to work."
That's a good rap.
Home. That was a very good, and it was actually true, Clayton. I worked. I did not take a day off. I didn't have a sick day in 17 years at Parbury's, except for one straight week where I had the actual flu and was bedridden for a week.
Man flu?
No, it wasn't the man flu. It was
bad.
A proper flu.
Wasn't that bad?
Wasn't but I literally did not have a day sick leave. I still really don't have. I don't think I've had a sick day in the last 17 years with Austaron either. I just get up and I'll battle through and just do it.
I think that's one point between the difference between the leaders and business and so forth, mate, is the work ethic and so forth. Because commitment. I was saying here, you very rarely get a sick day. But I think that's been brought on from our parents and so forth too. You know what I mean? I know mum, like when we were going to school and so forth, she wouldn't let us have a sick. If you're not going to school, if you're sick, you can't go to football training tonight. So you always wanted to go to football training. So you drag yourself to school if you're a crook because you still wanted to go to footy training that night.
Oh, absolutely. I think like yourself, we grew up in an area. If you got hurt, you fell off your bike and you did something that was really bad, you probably should have went to hospital, but you didn't. You got up and you still did stuff with you.
That's right. You just played on.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what we did. But look, after I really enjoyed those years with that big corporate company. I shed a tear on the day that I left. I won't say that I didn't, because I actually had the aspiration to spend 50 years with one company. I'd even worked out that I was going to, not retire at 65. I was going to go through to 71, and that's when I retired, when I hit 50 years. And that was my goal, because, you give back respect to the company that you work for.
Yes.
So I was a little bit heartbroken, but the reason we started Austaron is that Samsung had approached us to be the distributor of their product. We were interested. I did 6 months of due diligence. I had every state manager on board, had every state sales manager. We had our budget already pre-committed with some customers that we knew that would take the product on. And it was an absolute, certainty. And that 6 months was not us interviewing Samsung to take their product. Austaron was, the leading product in the world, leading product in Asia in the solid surfaces. It was them interviewing us whether our 500-strong person company, I think it was ranked 101 on the stock exchange, was good enough to take their brand on. Samsung were, so I remember flying to Sydney, ready to push the button on the go. It was a relatively small expenditure to get going. Nothing compared to like some of the Wilsonite colour changes. It was nothing for us to spend $1 million just on sampling and marketing literature when we would do a Wilsonite range change. But then here I am trying to spend $500,000, and I got knocked back. It was crazy. And one of the other reasons was I'd actually found a porcelain product a few months prior out of Saudi Arabia, and I took that to the general manager at the time and said, look, this is a really good product, but it's got a lot of problems. We need to really explore how we can get around the chipping and things like that in the production. And the weeks leading up to me coming down to push the go button on Austaron, he got flown to Saudi Arabia. Probably, it was a sheik and wined and dined and whatever. He actually signed a $2 million order while he was over there to release the product. I turned back up. I nearly fell off my chair. I said, why would you do that? I said, we shouldn't be doing that yet. I said, I haven't done the due diligence. I said, it's a great product in theory, but there's problems.
Yeah.
And he said we didn't want to miss the opportunity. And I said, do you know what? I said, Austaron is absolutely going to kill this product. He said, I know that, but he said, that's why we're not doing it, which floored me.
Yeah.
Absolutely floored me. And I had to go back to my what has been a wonderful business partner in the last 17 years, Sam Nam. He was the managing director of Samsung's textile division in Australia. And during that 6 months of us exploring, we developed a good friendship. And when I went back to Sam, there's another face I can't remember, and I said, we're not doing it. His face dropped because, who turns down Samsung for distribution?
That's right.
It's usually the other way around.
It's definitely the other way around. And I told Sam what the problems were, and they couldn't spend any money. So Sam went away, and he came back the next day, and he said to me, you know what? He said, we're going to give you all the stock on consignment, because I actually put a play that we couldn't spend money because we'd just been taken over by Alesco. And if we could get the stock on consignment for 12 months and get the merchandise and didn't pay for it, we could do it, and then we could, pay for everything in 12 months' time once we proved ourselves. Sam went back to Samsung and actually got that signed off.
Wow.
Couldn't believe it. Again, you ask for something. You don't ask for something, you don't get it. And that was a ridiculous ask, but we actually got it. I walked downstairs the next morning because Sam had told me on the phone the night before. And I said, all your objections of the product, I've overcome them. We've got our stock for 12 months. We've got our merchandise. There's zero spend. We make profit for 12 months. It's profit from day one. And we only pay for the inventory that we need, and we'll have our inventory balanced by the end of the year. And they still knocked it back because he realised it was going to, impede on the porcelain product that had been brought into the marketplace. What do you do when you've got no rationale or nothing? I had to go back to Sam, and again, his face was sort of unbelievable.
You couldn't have made it any easier.
No, it was just something that you just couldn't believe. So, look, I don't know what the time frame was because, to be really quite honest, it's a little bit of a blur the next sort of 4-month period. But I think it was about a week later, Sam rang me back up and said, I've now know a lot about solid surface by working with you and talking to you. And he said, I'm going to do this myself. I said, what? He was managing director for 23 years for their textile division. He was leading it to then come and, take on a product he didn't know. But he said, I want you to come and work for me. And I sort of thanked him, but I said, look, I'm a Parbury person. I'm not leaving. There's no way. I've had better offers from some opposition companies and things like that. I'm not leaving. I said, but I'll introduce you to someone that I had lined up to do a whole lot of work in solid surface. In fact, he was going to be our biggest customer for purchasing the product because he used to supply Australian kitchen industries, and they pledged 100 kitchens a year. But a gentleman named Don Carruthers, he had a very interesting life. He was into property. He actually built all of Harry Triggenbot's first units. I think he bought the first 500 odd units for Harry as a builder. He also had his own real estate. So Don would actually build the units, sell the units for Harry. And then he had Australia's largest post-forming company. So I introduced him to Don and said, Don will make, this was someone that was going to be a customer. Maybe you guys could work together and become distributors together. Don's already got the first, year's budget of business lined up. Introduced them, left them. About a week later, I got the call again from both of them that, hey, come down. We really want you to work for us. Again, the scenario was, I'm not coming to work for someone. Thank you. I'll help you, but I'm not coming to work. I think it must have been the next day. They come back and said, what if we, gave you a share of the business? And I said, I don't want to share. I said, I want us to be equal partners. We all have to be equal. Or not ever. I said, but I am, I don't have the funds to put in the business. So therefore, obviously that can't work. And if I'm not equal, I don't want to do it. I think they hung up and had a bit of a chat, and then they said they asked me what I could come up with. I looked at our savings. I sat down and I worked out that I had, I think, about 20 weeks owing to me in annual leave. I had long service because I really didn't have any holidays while I was at Parbury's either. You just never ever got the chance in those key roles. That you were always the first one had to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning to pull the roller door up.
And the last one to shut it.
The last one to shut it. I don't think a lot of people realise, what some owners do and things like that. And I don't think I do as much as what some of our shop fitting customers do. They're just amazing, the effort they put in. But I calculated I could come up with 50% of the ask money. Yeah. And they agreed that I could put 50% in, and they would spot me the rest of the deal, and I could pay at a later stage.
And you're an equal shareholder.
So that was, I think, on a Friday. On the Saturday morning, I got on the plane. I flew to Sydney. We sat at a cafe. I can remember the cafe. I don't know where it was, somewhere over near the rocks or somewhere. And we talked through all of the structure, the issues, what we were going to do. We agreed on a plan. We signed a notepad that we were in partners and thirds, and here was the things, and away we went. Within a week, they registered the business. It would become reality. I went and resigned, and very, very sad day for me. But we started a product, and that's how we kicked off Austaron.
Well, with all those roles you've had throughout the time, and now as the managing director, that would probably assist in that. What are the biggest challenges you face in the business?
Biggest challenge is actually branding. Our main product, Austaron Solid Surface, has opposition that created the product 55 years ago. The product is known by their brand name. Their product commands respect globally, and over the years, every other product that's tried to match them was not to the same quality. It was inferior, all other products. Now, Samsung is nobody's fool. They are one of the world's best. They were in chemicals before televisions. People don't realise that. Samsung's a very, very old company. Televisions weren't around. They were producing chemicals and, all these other products well before. And it's a lot of, I think, Westerners don't realise how big Samsung is and what they delve into. Everything, finance, insurance, construction, they've got all of that. And their chemical division in Korea is on a plant that was 50 acres large, 50 acres of chemical plant, wow. Supplying, your plastic in your office would either derive from a Samsung, a Lotte, a Mitsubishi or a DuPont chemical plant. They make all the plastic raw ingredients in pallets, whether it's ABS, all the different brands of plastics, and they ship them out in 1 ton tote bags, and then millions of manufacturers melt that plastic or polycarbonate down and
into
create
their product.
Then wonderful product. So they produced a solid surface that they didn't get it right in the first couple of years, but they had some inferior product, but they quickly developed what is today the highest grade solid surface in the world. Our tech data shows it. Our customer base in Australia, you talk to the fabricators, and 90% of them would say that they prefer our brand, Austaron, over our competitors. Our shop fitting customers will do it. So I literally think we're the commercial quality, but we don't have the residential brand name of the largest player in the marketplace, and they win jobs by default. So for 17 years, every time we see someone, they ask, why should we use you? They don't understand the technical differences. They don't understand the quality difference. They don't understand the salt. They just go for the brand name, and every day we have the same argument. Why should we use you over that? And it's you've got the same story. I can see you smiling.
Sounds familiar. I was just going to say the same
thing. It sounds very, and we counter it every day. And you make a breakthrough with a large architectural firm. They do several jobs with you. The feedback is wonderful, everything. And then the junior or the interior design department, that lady leaves because they, and then another comes. They don't know your product. So you've got total, or when someone says go and select a solid surface, they don't say go and select a solid surface. They say go and select our opposition brand name.
By brand name.
Name.
You've got to then re-educate.
Everyone's saying a shutter door is a KRGS door.
Yeah. You've got to re-educate. You've got to re-educate these people.
And then when you do educate them, they give you the scraps.
Yes.
They'll give you 6 jobs in a row. Everything's wonderful. But then the next job that comes along, instead of it being, $5,000 or $10,000 worth of material, the next job's $500,000 worth of material and they give that to your competitor.
Yeah.
And it just always seems to go that way. So branding and brand awareness is my biggest issue in the marketplace.
Hopefully you coming on the KRGS Doors podcast, mate, this can help your branding.
I would say so.
Yeah, I'm guessing that'll change that.
Well, it is the number one podcast in the roller shutter industry.
I believe so. So I've been told.
I think I've heard that and that.
So I've been told.
Hey, away from work, how do you relax?
I'd like to say that I have wonderful hobbies. As a kid, I was right into my sport and rugby league and cricket and all that. But you know, since I got married at 21 and a young family and the roles I've had, and about 11 years ago we bought 40 acres at Sanford in Queensland. So our relaxing hobby is actually yard work.
Yeah. Yeah,
looking after a 40-acre property. So you work all week, you get home up on a Saturday morning, and you go and you get on the tractor to start mowing.
Yeah,
and on Sunday night, you've done half your property.
Yeah, it's a big role, mate. There is nothing like living in the bush, though, is there? Nothing better.
Yeah, look, we love it. During the weekend, I can probably say we don't walk in the house. We literally
live outside.
Walk out. Belinda walks one way, and I walk the other. We meet up probably. I'm going to say 12 o'clock, but it could be like 10 o'clock for the first beer o'clock session.
Yeah.
Well, you've earned it. You've earned it on the tractor.
We've earned it, or whippersnipping or whatever. Look, it's tough. Look, Belinda will get out on the whippersnipper at 7 o'clock in the morning with the commercial brush cutter, and she'll finish at dark.
Wow, that's a good effort.
Property. She'll go to the poison spray. So you're constant. Look, like this property was overgrown. It was extremely unmanageable. It was horrific, to be quite honest. We've now got it amazing, to be quite honest. It really does look fantastic. But we've still got many, many years to working our way up the mountain and things like that.
Are you similar to me, though, that I'm happy to mow, I'm on a suburban block, I'm happy to mow the front, but let my wife mow the back because I don't want the neighbours to think any less of me as a bloke?
Well, at my last suburban block, I actually was banned from using the whippersnipper because one time I cut the grass too low around the edges. So all the blokes in the street were envious because Belinda was out there.
That's the key, mate. Get in first time, cut it too low, and then Belinda's got to get in and fix it up.
I actually have used that a few times, and we joke about it. If I ever want Belinda to take over something on the property, I just do a bad job of it.
Yeah. I'll remember that one.
Here's one that's even worse, and this really does degrade your manhood. Is that I'm not allowed to use the barbecue to cook meat
because you burn everything.
Belinda has to cook the barbecue because I stuff it up.
Wow. You have lost your number one status there.
I don't mind it actually. My mates, we had some friends over, very long-term friends the other day, and I was actually allowed to on the barbecue, and they said, "I don't think we've seen you on the barbecue for like 10 years."
It is an art though of cooking a barbie. We actually used to have a mutual friend who was a footy coach, and he'd ask how you want your steak, and he'd time it by how many beers he could have. So do you want it 2 beers or 4 beers, depending on how you'd like your steak.
I've got a friend that every bit of steak gets cooked on a timer, and look, they're good, but I don't think they're any different than mine. And my son and wife do not like me turning the steak heaps of times. You turn it once.
No, you only got to turn it once, mate. That's right.
And every time there's a top chef on the cooking show or whatever, and they're turning their steak, and the last one recently was you got to turn your steak regularly to getting the fat off the top of it, so it doesn't taste like fat. I get, apparently he's not an expert and he doesn't know what he's talking about. But he's in a Michelin star restaurant, cooking steak.
Yeah. Exactly. He's still got no idea.
That's right.
Yeah, what would he know? So anyway, I've been allowed back on the barbecue in the last couple of weeks, once or twice.
You haven't cremated anything yet, mate?
No, not at all.
Good.
On that. So
now to wrap up the podcast, we ask our Fast 5 questions. It's just to get to know you a little bit better. And I've actually got 6, and I'm going to surprise you with one at the end. What would be your last meal?
I'd probably say a Thai meal. I really like Thai food.
Nice.
I do like some spicy flavors and things like that. A steak would be hard to beat, but you know what? A nice taste, something with a good amount of spice to it.
Yeah, good.
Your drink of choice?
Bundaberg rum. I'm a Queenslander. That might disgust some of your listeners, but it really is a good drink. But I actually drink it with water. Plain tank water, fresh water, that actually you can taste it. The same as a good Scotch drinker will drink their Scotch with water. Rum actually tastes really, really nice with proper distilled tank water.
Water it down, eh?
Well, it's not really watered down. It's 50-50 mix. It's it's pretty strong. But I will drink Scotch and vodka and that, and I'll drink all of those with water. If I go out and it's a party, I'll drink it with a bit of Diet Coke because I think the sugar makes it a little bit lively. But, Bundaberg rum, I would say my number one drink.
I must say, I've been to a few parties. I've been to a few parties with you, and you don't need living up, I'm telling you.
Who is your favourite superhero and why?
Well, I really don't have a modern one, but I can remember as a young teenage boy, I had one. It was Wonder Woman. I don't have to tell you why.
I wonder why.
Yes, all those in favour, I think.
I think you married Wonder Woman if she's out there doing the whippersnipping from sun up to sundown.
She does an incredible job, and I'll only say that because she's not listening and hearing that.
What is your favourite movie quote?
It has to be a very current movie that's very topical at the moment, but very nice. High five.
A bit of Borat.
Great success.
One of Drew's favourites.
Yes.
That's one of Drew's favourites.
Yeah, it is. It is. I actually introduced my 15-year-old son. He hadn't seen it, and we watched it on the weekend, and he's repeating it all similar to that, yes.
I have to ask, have you seen the new one?
I haven't as yet, no.
You need to get on and watch the new one. It's not there's some cringeworthy moments I cannot believe. I cannot believe that they could do it.
It's like watching a car crash, mate, isn't it?
It's just crazy what he's done. Yeah, get on. It's on one of the television. I don't know which one, not Netflix. I think it's one of the one that Jeff Bezos is.
I think Prime, with. Amazon, or something like that. It's on, yeah.
Yeah, it might be Prime or something, but go and watch it before it's removed.
And if heaven does exist, what would God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh, this might be a bit. He'd probably have to say, "See, I am real."
Mate, Brett, thanks very much.
Hey, just before you go into that, I have one question, and it stems back to one of your stories. Have you been back to the CES office and said to that lady that was behind the counter, "Hey, I told you so"?
I actually did. You actually had to go back at that stage and report your interviews. So I actually went back and told her that I had a very good interview and I was in the short list. And when I got the job, I actually went back and said I got the job. It's just maybe in the future you shouldn't discount someone because of their age. Young people can achieve, can do a lot and achieve a lot. I did it nicely. It was really nice. It was more about I didn't want someone else to be, victimized because of their age.
Because of their age or their experience.
Yeah. So I believe in that, to this date. I've got the most wonderful team of staff. I actually think they're like family to me.
Yeah.
And when you get to know people, everyone's got problems. Everyone's got things that happen in their life at certain stages, either personal tragedy, motivation, issues within the family, issues within friends, financial issues. And not every employee can give 100% to your workplace 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. We're expanding at the moment. The building industry, and we are growing market share across our different products, and with cane mail and Mario Romano walls, just brand new products really to us, and yet to go through a very large growth stage. We've just put on a new rep in Queensland. I'll be putting on another one in Sydney in the new year, if not two, and we're just about to move into New Zealand in the new year as well. You've just got to work with people. But I said to the new representative, I said, if you get to a customer and they piss you off, I said, I want you to actually go to and have a coffee or go to a shop, go and sit down and reflect. Don't keep battling the whole day that, the customer base, as an arsehole. Because it's really difficult when you knock on, and let's look at architects. They have, I think one told me once, they have 2,500 suppliers that are registered in their company as seeing them in a year. 2,500 different suppliers. Can you imagine the disruption to your business if you had 2,500 people turning up
it's a lot.
Every year in multiple times. So I say to my staff sometimes, if they're having a bad day as well, or they've got a thing, you've just got to live with it and accept it. And if they give you time, they give you time. If they don't, they don't. Yeah. So
I must say,
really
I've had a little bit to do with some of your staff, not only in Sydney here, dealing with Barclay, but others all around. Like you, I get to trip around the countryside and all these different states, and agree, your staff, the people that you have, they all treat the brand and the business like their own, and they're all very, very polite and good to deal with and so forth, mate. So that it is a feather in your cap to your business and the staff. Thanks very much for coming on our podcast and having a chat and telling us about the Brett Worden story and the business. Mate, keep up the good work. I wish all the successes to you and the staff, and well done, and thanks very much again. Much appreciate.
That's all right. Thanks a lot, guys. Look forward to our next catch-up and a beer.
Yeah, can't wait.
Sounds good. Thanks very much, Brett.
Thanks, Brett. All the best.
Yeah.
See you, mate. Take care.
That wraps up the 23rd episode and our chat with Brett Worden, Managing Director of Austaron Surfaces. You can find out more about Austaron by visiting their website, www.austaron.com.au. That's www.austaron.com.au. If you have missed any previous episodes of the KRGS Doors podcast, you can download them from our website, www.krgsdoors.com.au/podcast, or on your favourite podcast player, search KRGS Doors. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. This also boosts our ranking and my ego. The other thing I suggest, if you have enjoyed the podcast, visit your favourite podcast player and leave a review or a rating. On our next episode, we speak to Trent Langlands, personal trainer to the stars. Trent tells us why his program is different to other jocks in the park screaming at you, and how he trains the likes of Hugh Bowman, Simon Baker and Matt Moran. I've been your host, Drew Blackman, and you've been fantastic for tuning in today. As always, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Thanks. Till next time. The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au.